I'm Sally-Shakti, and this is your tarot and astrology reading for visionary writers for the week of 27th of February to the 5th of March 2023. I've got a few things to say about the astrology of this week for writers and for our creative energy. And then whilst I'm speaking about that, I'll shuffle the tarot deck. I'm working with the Elemental Power Tarot by Melinda Lee Holm again this week. I'll shuffle the tarot deck and I'll see what wants to come out to support us. But I want to say a few things about the astrology of this week for us writers, for visionary writers in particular. My main focus this week is that there's a lot of Aries energy. We just had the moon in Aries. The moon's just come out of Aries. You will probably have seen lots of pictures in the last few evenings last week of the moon, Jupiter and Venus close together in the night sky. And all of those, they were all in Aries, in the constellation of Aries, whilst they were there very close together. The moon now has moved around into Gemini. It's actually coming very close to Mars. That will be, moon will be conjunct with Mars. They'll be very close together this evening. They'll be exactly conjunct Tuesday morning. So we have the energy of the moon and Mars together in Gemini, which again brings Mars's creative fire. Mars is the ruler of Aries, and so we've got that creative fire of initiation, that creative spark that Mars is bringing to the party in the sign of Gemini with the moon. So Gemini is the sign of writing, communication, thinking, speaking. So we've got this. We've got Mars there in giving some initiatory fire into that sign of Gemini, and we're working with this energy of initiation and the initiatory fire of the constellation, the sign of Aries, very strongly this week and through March, through into March as well, because so we've just had the moon just come out of Aries. The sun will be going into Aries on the spring equinox, on the Aries equinox on the 21st of March. And in the meantime, in the interim, particularly this week, we still have Jupiter and Venus in the sign of Aries. They're going to be conjunct with each other on Thursday this week. There's a lot of energy happening on Thursday that I'll talk about. We also have in Aries, as I'm sure many of you know now, Chiron, the wounded healer, and a dwarf planet, Vesta. And Vesta is, in Roman mythology, has the energy of the sacred flame, the sacred fire. The Vestal virgins tended to the sacred flame and the sacred fire. And that relates also to sexuality and sexual energy. So we have this strong sense, we've got this big energy in Aries that relates to initiation, fire, creation. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. So those planets and other astral bodies that are moving through Aries at the moment are initiating a new cycle in their own energies. So Jupiter, which entered Aries just, I think around on the, I'm pretty sure Jupiter entered Aries again on the winter solstice just gone, the Capricorn solstice that we just had in December. And that was the beginning point of a new 12-year cycle. That was 2022. So the previous 12 years, for me personally, is when I changed my name and initiated a new cycle in my own creative path, moving away from my long-term career as an English teacher in schools and moving towards a creative path as a writer and a coach, particularly a visionary writer and a coach for visionary writers. which is something that I do now, and I'm on that path of. So Jupiter entered Aries on the December solstice to initiate a new 12-year cycle of expansion and abundance. And Jupiter is still in Aries, so still activating this energy of initiation and the energy of creative fire and creative spark. Venus is also there in the early degrees of Aries, and is coming around to conjunct with Jupiter. Venus in Aries is the energy of self-determination, action, intention to do things one's own way, and passionate, focused, determined sense of self-worth. So Venus in Aries is initiating, again, a new phase, a new cycle of self-worth and self-love, self-care, self-determination. We have this, as I said, this dwarf planet Vesta, the energy of sexuality, our creative fire, our creative kundalini. Vesta in Aries, to me, suggests a sense of tending to the sacred flame and recognizing our creativity as that internal sacred flame, that sacred fire that wants to initiate and wants to create. But perhaps in the past, if you're like me, have been prone to burning up or burning out. And I'm going to talk a lot more about that in the video today, because we also have Chiron there in Aries, and all of these planets and bodies are very close together in the constellation of Aries at the moment, and they're activating and being activated by this initiatory fire, this creative desire, or the desire to create, through fire, through sacred flame, through our kundalini, through our life force energy, and to bring that into manifestation, into the world, into the earth, which is the next sign in the zodiac, which is Taurus. So bringing that sacred flame into form, bringing that creative fire into form, so that it can become manifest on this planet and can grow and have life. Chiron is healing that sense, that what has been through our patriarchal time, this patriarchal era, this age of Pisces, what has been very much an out of balance, an unbalanced, over masculinized, hyper masculinized drive to create, that actually in many ways, both on a large scale and personally, if we look at it, I think many of us could resonate with the sense that has been a drive to self-destruction, this hyper masculinized warrior. Not that there's anything essentially wrong with the warrior archetype, but it's been a wounded warrior, a wounded healer, and the drive towards war, towards conflict, towards wanting to or needing to create, in terms of needing to dominate, has been really how this form, the shadow side, or the unbalanced aspect of the Aries energy and the Mars energy has come through and manifested often in our inner world as well as in our outer world. If you're like me, you might resonate with some of the shadows and unbalanced aspects of this creative energy. I have Aries in my birth chart is my midheaven. It's my ambition, it's my focus, it's how I want to show up through my work in the world. I also have Leo as my rising sign. Now, I only recently realized how much fire I have in my chart. My chart is predominantly air and water, which makes me very intellectual and emotional. But I'm noticing how much fire there is there too. I have, as I said, Aries is my midheaven, Leo is my rising sign, and when I changed my name, my sun at that point was in Sagittarius. So I've got this fire in my chart that is wanting to be healed, actually, in that through that Chiron archetype and through that Vesta archetype. My fire, the way my fire has shown up previously, has been very often, if not always, certainly predominantly, self-destructive. My need and my desire to create have almost always led me to burnout or burn up, where I have needed to write or create and have not necessarily had an appropriate outlet or an appropriate foundation for supporting that. And I've spoken to other visionary writers who have experienced the same problem or a similar kind of manifestation of this fire. There's this strong desire to create, there's this strong desire to write and to make change in the world through our writing, and yet perhaps not the clarity of direction or the sort of earthly foundation that will support that. If we often want to create and don't know how, or don't know how to make our voices heard and don't know how to be heard, for me and for others I've spoken to, the tendency for that to become frustration ends up becoming very self-destructive. Either we are so passionate about what we want to create that we overgive and self-destruct through burnout, or we find that we're not quite sure how to create or how to have our voices heard, how to be heard and get our voices heard in, what is an increasingly overcrowded and overstimulated platforms. If we don't know how to create or know how to put our creations positively out into the world to have an impact, for myself and for many other visionary writers I've spoken to, there's often a sense of frustration, overwhelm, which again ultimately leads to either to burnout because we're trying too hard, or to burn up, which I'm kind of calling what happens when that creative fire burns itself to nothing and goes out, when we can feel frustrated, demotivated, lacking energy for our creative projects and passions because we're not seeing the results and the impacts that we would like to see. This feels to me very much like a potent and powerful time, astrologically, energetically, to begin to heal those wounds and to begin to shift those patterns and change those behaviors and beliefs, and change the outcomes and the ways that we work with our creative energy, the ways that we tend to our creative flame. And that will look different for each of us, but ultimately the desired outcome is primarily to heal that wound, so that we can learn in whatever ways are right for us to tend to our creative flame and to tend to our creative flame in ways that enable us to write and that enable us to be seen and heard in the ways that we desire to be, to hold that self-belief in our self-worth and our self-value, that what we have to say and what we want to write is valuable. It is worth saying. It is worth sharing with other people. It is worth putting it out there. And so to find the ways in which to do that, whichever is right and appropriate for you, which may, of course, change over time. But I feel that now we're in this potent energy cycle of, we have this lineup of planets and astral bodies in the sign of Aries that are beginning a new cycle with this healing signature of learning to tend to our own sacred flame, recognizing that our creativity is sacred. It is our sacred fire. It does burn within us for a reason, for a purpose. We feel passionate for a reason. That Aries energy of initiation wants to take action. It wants to move forward. It wants to make change. And so learning to tend to our own creative flame, whether that is by finding 10 or 15 minutes every day to write, whether that is finding new ways to be seen and heard effectively, whether that is putting in clearer boundaries, not to overgive and overwork. Because what's important, especially with Venus, is that we take the self-care, that we create the foundations that will support us and sustain us into the long term, so that we can create what we're here to create. We can write what we're here to write, and we can say what we're here to say, and we can be heard and have an impact, and do that in ways that are sustainable and supportive and nourishing, in ways that we don't continue to keep burning up or burning out, in ways that keep that sacred fire burning inside us, that passion, that desire, that initiatory energy, the call to take action when we are ready to, especially as the energies are rising around us. And the knowing of our own self-worth, that what we have come here to say deserves to be heard. We came here for a purpose, to write and to create and to say what we need to say, and that we hold a vision that is perhaps unique, that can resonate with other people's visions and can be supported by the collective evolution and the collective vision, but that our voices are unique, and that what we have to say is important and of value, not only to ourselves. It's not only a duty of self-care to write and create and say what we're here to say. It's a duty of collective care to share what we came here to share, because that's what we're here for. But our lives here in these bodies, in this world, have to support us to do that. And I feel very strongly that this is the time now that we're entering from this week through into March and beyond, that we can begin to let go of some of those self-destructive patterns and turn things towards a new trajectory, a new cycle for our own creative energy, our own creative life force as writers, as visionary writers here on Earth at this time, with important and powerful things to say. There's a lot of energy happening on Thursday. The moon in its home sign of Cancer will be squaring with Venus, Jupiter, and Chiron in Aries. Now, that square can often produce tension. So look out on Thursday for an extra reminder to nourish your own self-worth and to nourish your own creativity and energy and sacred fire, because that's really going to be what's showing up for us at this time. And on Thursday, we also have Venus conjunct Jupiter. You'll see them together in the sky at sunset. And again, we can expect the creative spark of a new cycle of expansion, self-love, self-worth, self-value, power and determination, passion and focus for bringing what we're ready to bring into the world as creative visionaries, as visionary writers. with self-care at the foundation of this new way of bringing our creative fire to life, tending that creative fire in ourselves and bringing it into form onto the earth through our writing and through our being. It's an initiation of a new creative cycle that carries the imprint of the healing of Chiron and Vesta, so that we can hold our own creative fire as sacred and not burn up and not burn out, so that we can fulfill really what we are here to do, that drives us with such passion and desire, which in the past perhaps has been often potentially self-destructive, if we have not had the outlets and the foundation for the creative life that we are here to live. On Thursday, also, Mercury conjuncts Saturn in the final degrees of Aquarius and then enters into Pisces. So again, we have this Mercury energy, the energy of writing, of communication, speech and thought, moving to complete its cycle through Aquarius into Pisces, where it now comes into the final sign, the final house of the zodiac. So Mercury will soon be entering into Aries as well to start its new cycle. I could take a look at when that happens, but I might have to follow that up in the next video. But we're looking out for then this week Mercury completing a cycle around the zodiac. Mercury, our thoughts, ideas, communications, writing, speech. Mercury completing a cycle and getting ready to begin again as it moves into Aries to join Jupiter and the other planets that will be there. So we've got this strong invitation to reset, to come into a new beginning and a new way of being in relation to our creative fire, in relation to our sacred life force energy, in relation to how we communicate and share and show up through our writing as visionary writers. So let's see just now what is, there we go. Oh, there's too many cards there. What is on the cards for us in terms of what's showing up for us in the tarot this week to support us? Okay. The Fool. This week's tarot card pull is the Fool. Now, what does that tell us? We're at the beginning of a new cycle, a new initiatory energy. Now, let's put that into context. On Wednesday, it's the 1st of March. Later this month in March, we move from Pisces into Aries. The sun moves from Pisces into Aries. So this is a really strong and powerful time for ending old ways of being, ending old cycles, completing old energetic cycles and ways of being, and stepping into something new, even where, as the Fool reminds us, even where we might be stepping into the unknown. We might be stepping into something that feels scary, something that feels like stepping off the edge of a cliff. And why it feels like that? Because we're leaving behind what we have known. We're leaving behind what we've outgrown, the ways that we have done things in the past that are no longer working for us. And we're moving into something new and unknown. The Fool shows us that it's always like that. There's never really the ground to walk on that we think. But in this case, we are moving from a set of beliefs, ideas, and behaviors that have been our cocoon. It's been the way we've always done things. I know for me it has been. the way that I've always done things with my creative energy is to initiate something with great passion and then to burn out or to burn up, because either I'm giving too much or I'm not receiving enough back in terms of impact and in terms of giving value to the world and being of service in the ways that I came here to be. And those are the beliefs and behaviors and energies that we're ready to step out of now. But they are familiar. They're how we've always done things and what we've always known, even though we might also now be aware that the way we've always done things has been often painful and self-destructive. But we may not know what the new ways are or what they look like, but we're ready. That's what the Fool is telling us. We are ready to start this new journey. The new journey is happening, whether we're ready or not. The ground is falling away, but we are ready. We're ready to step into this invitation to do things differently, because what's at stake here is everything. Everything that we came here for. When we came to this earth with something to say, a new vision, a new way to write it. And if we have not yet fully been able to communicate that, if we've not been able to fully express ourselves creatively and be of service and have the kind of impact that we are passionate about, because we know that what we are here for is of value, whatever has been holding us back in that path is ready now to be cleared away and is falling away. And we have the invitation to choose to step out into the unknown and do it differently. Because as I said, what is at stake is everything. Everything that we are most passionate about, everything that we are here for, everything that matters to us as visionary writers. And this is what we're moving towards. And it might feel scary and uncertain, but this is what we're here for. And this is what we're moving towards. And this is what we now have the invitation to step up and claim for ourselves. Your writing matters. Your voice matters. You're here to be heard. So thank you for joining me. You can find me elsewhere on social media at Writing Thriving. Come and check out what I'm doing, and be great to connect with you and say hi. All right. Sending you lots of love.